この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am here for Kizumonogatari, Tekketsu-hen, episode 1, first movie, whatever. That's what we're gonna watch. I'm sure that there are at least a couple of you who are about to go into the comments and be like, no, you should be watching it this way, or you should be watching it this way. Just don't. Just don't. It's all good. It's all good. We'll get through the whole series eventually. I spent a lot of time trying to decide which way to watch this, which is hard to do when you're trying to avoid spoilers, because any justification for one way or the other is inevitably going to have spoilers in it. But huge shout outs to some people on my Discord, specifically Daiki, thank you, who did a couple of things, did some spoiler-free explanations of the various potential watch orders, and then ran a poll in my Discord to figure out what people wanted to see, what people thought would be best. And the overwhelming result was intended broadcast order, essentially. The names for the different orders get kind of confusing because different people use different names for different things, but Kizu after Bake. That's the thing. What do I know about Kizu? I know that it's a prequel. I know that it was written later, and I know that, more importantly, it took a really long time for Shaft to actually produce these films and get them out the way that they wanted to. So they aired much later in the season and not in the intended order of experiencing the story. So Oisin and a whole lot of other people say you should probably watch Kizu where it falls in the light novel order. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to watch Kizu now. If you don't like it, sorry. But suck it up, because we got Bake to watch. We got Monogatari stuff to... Okay, I'm an idiot. Okay, so this is a prequel. This is a prequel. It's going to be focused on, I assume, Araragi, of course, but I know that this is about that time, the time when Araragi became an undead thing, and that story. And we've had hints at it. We know that it was Shinobu. We've seen some flashbacky stuff in the early parts of Bake of it. And some names and stuff like Kiss Shot. I know that I think, actually I'm not sure, but I think that that's the name of the vampire, which is now Shinobu, I think. But that's conjecture, I think. We've seen a scene of this, gorgeous, very mature, blonde vampire lady bleeding out in a hallway. And we've seen some other people who seem to be fighting against Araragi. Oshino's in there somewhere. I probably should have gone back and rewatched the flashbacks from Bake before coming into this. I don't know. What else? Yeah, there's not much else. So I assume we're going to be starting with Koyomi Araragi as a normal high school student who has no experience with oddities or aberrations or whatever you want to call them. And then he's going to meet a vampire and his whole world's going to be turned inside out, upside down. And this is going to be Senjo Gahara free, probably. And then there was the other thing, which is that I think Hanekawa's previous experience with the Hanekawa Black, the cat thing, occurred at about the same time. So that might factor into the Kizu series, but I don't know. In any case, I'll keep an eye out for weird things going on there. I've been wanting to watch these movies for quite a while. There aren't that many recent animated films, Japanese animated films, that are super knockouts. Silent Voice, Your Name, so Koi no Katachi and Kimi no Nawa. Blah, 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 blah. The Heaven's Feel movies that are coming out by Fate right now, or by Fate, by Ufotable right now. They're all good. and the Kizu films are rated amongst them in Best Animated Films. But I've had to not watch them because I knew that I was going to end up watching Bake and the rest of the Monogatari series, and so I didn't want to watch them without recording them. So I'm a little bit hyped for this. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a Shaft feature film. I think that Shaft's general production is stellar. So stellar production with an anime movie budget sounds really, really cool. A lot of what Shaft does and their stylistic choices are based in cost-saving measures, right? Animating things without animating them, or with minimal effort to create gorgeous visuals. So what happens when you have that kind of experience with cost-saving measures, but you don't have to save money? I assume creative awesomeness. And so that's what I'm hoping for. Some other housekeeping before we get started. Subtitles. I am using the Eido V2 subs, which were recommended to me by a couple of people. There are a lot of sub providers for these films, and people have their own preferences. The one thing that I think the Eido subs will do that people might not like, just based on the descriptions of the subs written by Eido, or whatever their tag is, I don't remember, is that they don't directly translate the wordplay, which is sensible, I think. They localize it, which means to use similar English wordplay that makes sense to an English-speaking audience. Now, this creates a little bit of confusion because perhaps the wordplay doesn't exactly mean what it actually means in Japanese, and that is rough, right? Like, too bad. Without a better understanding, a better fluency of Japanese on my end, there's not much I can do about that. The alternative is that you directly translate everything, and then you end up with stuff like keikaku means plan, because you have to explain the translations because the jokes don't make sense or the wordplay doesn't really make sense. I much prefer a localized copy, so if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but suck it up. And if you want to explain some of the wordplay, go right ahead. I'd be interested to hear it. I'm always interested to delve into that. But when it's coming at you and it's in the middle of a show or a film, it's much better to just have things that make sense and fit, unless the wordplay has like massive plot ramifications. Is that it for housekeeping? I think that's it for housekeeping. So let's watch Kizu episode 1. This is an hour and 4 minutes long, so it's basically the equivalent of 3 episodes smushed together, sort of. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's gonna depend on how the discussion goes. And I figure what I'll probably do for the discussion is we'll do it sort of normally, but I will probably, once the episode ends, I'll probably take a few minutes, maybe more than a few, and just start writing out things and going back through the episode and finding the things that I want to talk about and ensure that my discussion covers all the things that I want to do, and I'll probably just cut that part out, and hopefully we'll end up with a pretty coherent discussion at the end. But we'll see. I'm kind of just going to wing it. Anyway, I'm blathering. I should stop doing that, and we should watch Kizu. Yeah? Sound good? Sound good? Okay, good. So, I have Kizumonogatari 1 up and ready, and we'll do this the same format as just about everything else. It'll be a timer-based version on YouTube, which is what you're watching now because it's got the discussion at the beginning. And it'll have a beep beep timer at the beginning for syncing up with your own version of the film if you want to do that. Hopefully that remains in sync all the way through. I'll do everything I can to make sure that it does. Generally I sync it up based on actually the light on my face. So when a scene switches from darkish to lightish, you can see that in the light bouncing off of my face, and so I sync that up to the frame. and I do similar things with the audio. So hopefully that'll work throughout. I've got tea, I've got vape, nicotine, I've used the bathroom, should have no reason to take a break. So, I think we're good to go. Oh, yeah, and then there will be a picture-in-picture version of the reaction portion. So, because syncing could be rough, just because of the length, and because OBS gets funky when you record long things, there will be a picture-in-picture version. You can find it in the description. It'll have the video up here. Okay? Okay. Cool. I think that's it. And then just because these are long, I'm gonna do shell stuff now. I've been doing it at the end of videos or just not at all. But I'm gonna do a shell stuff, so bear with me. If you like this video, you can do that. And if you want more stuff like this, you can subscribe to this channel. And you might want to go and subscribe to my actual channel, because this will go up on my backup, Teeaboo 2. You might want to go and sub to Teeaboo, which I think you can find at youtube.com/channel/Teeaboo. Yeah. This is a backup channel, which I have up for copyright reasons, because my current channel is in copyright. My main channel is in copyright limbo. So if you found me through Teeaboo 2, you might want to go and sub to the main one, because I'm in contact with YouTube, and we should get the copyright stuff fixed soon, I hope. It's been so long. But anyway, sub if you want to. And the bell does the sub thing, but it actually does that, so you might want to do that if you want it to actually work. And if you really like this content or want to support me, the guy who makes it, you can head over to patreon.com/Teeaboo. This is the Patreon symbol, and this thing is kind of bent. I'm gonna have to fix it. I don't want to redraw it because it's like a big part of my channel branding, but whatever. Patreon.com/Teeaboo. It's a place where you can go to throw me a couple of bucks and get early access to next week's Monogatari reaction, which will be Kizu 2, and the week after that will be Kizu 3. You can get early access to that 1 week early, and other things a week early. Also, access to the Discord to talk about stuff, and it helps a lot. It's my sole source of income. You might have noticed that there are no ads on my channel and no sponsorships. And I've refused a couple of sponsorship offers because I don't want to go that way. I would rather stay entirely community funded. It gives me, well, it feels right to me, and then it also gives me a way to gauge how much value I'm giving to the world, right? Because if people think that my content is valuable enough to give me money, that's a really good indicator to me that I'm on the right track and doing the right thing. And if people fall off of the Patreon, that's a good indicator to me that I'm screwing up a little bit, you know? So I want to keep that consistent, and Patreon will continue to be, for the lifetime of this channel, will continue to be my sole source of income. So, support is greatly appreciated. Let's do Kizu. I need headphones. Ugh. Let's see what we're getting into. Beep beep timer will go right here. Oh, and if you don't know how beep beep timer works, it'll go boop 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 beep, and on the beep and the green light, that's the same frame that Kizu starts playing on my screen, so if you're playing along, that's probably when you want to hit the button and do so. Cool? Cool. Timer goes here. Vampire. So we're in widescreen. Monochrome reversal. Whoa. Is that's CG, right? Oh. Hi. Does he already have canines? Whoa. That's CG, right? I can't tell. Holy shit, that eye. Yeah, with all these particles, that's so pretty. Holy shit. Oh, that's fantastic. And unnerving. Fourth floor. He definitely has fangs already. Okay. God, fuck, that's so fluid. And it's not computer tweened either. If he's a vampire, he should not be going outside during daytime. Shaft, what the fuck? How? Son, you better run, dude. Are you burning? You're burning. Yeah. Oh my god, this is so gorgeous. So it's only direct sunlight on the flag of the rising sun. Iron-blooded arc. Okay. Different time of year. Is this where he crosses paths with Hanekawa? Yeah. So this is the same as the first scene of Bake, but entirely different, of course. And she's being juxtaposed with cherry blossoms. Yep. Yeah, okay. Just much higher production value. And panty shot. No timer this time, though. Is it just me, or did she get more? Aha. Yeah. She's already blushing. Okay, so they know each other. Or she knows him. This is before the burning scene, right? Yeah. Top scores. One mistake? What was the mistake? A little bit of A, a little bit of B. We'll see about that. Okay, there's a lot of special care being taken in the shadows. So keep an eye out for that. Reward for what? Wow, the attitude change from this point to beginning of Bake. Small human, eh? Gimme, gimme. Okay. Something nyan.jp. Little skip in your step. Aw. And there's the car that crashed. No! And now he gains her song. Bit of a match cut there. Was there a frame of panty shot in there? Yep. Absolutely. I see. Shadows again. He's out at night. To be A3 dash nyan nyan. Ah. That's where she is, isn't it? That's a lot of gore. These backgrounds are so good. A literal descent, okay. That's an SOS, right? Bingo. So we're going for Shakespearean English for that extremely formal. Okay. I don't think so. I think it's a little late. Blood. Okay. Iron-blooded, hot-blooded, cold-blooded. Yeah. Wait, that's all my blood. I need that. Has he been charmed? Pivotal character moment. All the pretense. And now she begs. Jesus. It becomes completely just the baby crying. But he'll choose to. And in that moment, the Araragi that we've known is born. Hmm. The next life you asked for. And she's Shinobu. Yeah, where are you right now? Oh, so that was then, and this all ties to. Okay. Using a high diver as reference. She burns too. CG work is so good. Oh my god. Doesn't seem like there's much lasting damage. Just a little tan. He's above average. Because she's his sire. Eternal torment. Until the sun sets. I think that's the first time anyone has ever touched that I've seen. Ooh, that's a nice bass line. This is the abandoned school. Is Oshino here? Yep. But his free will doesn't seem to be impacted. That's a good question. Less to regenerate. Okay, fair enough. But she's still herself. She's not the Shinobu that we know. Wholesome head pats. Gimme. I want one. Without exception? But how? The names of the three, are those the ones that we saw? Dramaturgy? Dramaturgy, episode, and guillotine cutter? Something like that? Okay. Yeah, you used to suck at fighting. Now you have Empire. Yeah, but those three defeated her when she was at full strength. So why would Araragi be any different? This is where the fight happens, isn't it? But the three were stronger than you. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And hello. That guy has sword arms, doesn't he? Sure looks like he's got sword arms. Yakimaru, no! Dramaturgy. Well, looks like you're not going to be able to fight one-on-one. Episode. And the third? Guillotine cutter. Running time. Oshino? Hi. They've reversed the audio? Oshino shares the same cross motif as they do. Not anymore. Oshino blocks all 3 incoming attacks. With hardly any effort. Alright, who the fuck is he? What the fuck is he? Hi. Where'd the bad guys go? Already knows his name. Three points. How does he know so much? Yeah. Yeah. Bullshit. Bullshit, Oshino. Utter failure. Mm-hmm. Then this old man just passing by just popped in and blocked all of their attacks. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. You're in between. Which likely makes her useful to Oshino. She promised that it was possible. Hmm. Well, he's consistent. It's a lot of yen. Hmm. Pretty hefty. And then there's no reason to say no. Yep. That's a character change. Okay. That was fast. Oh, there are 4 minutes left. Is that all credits? I'm just gonna watch through it in case there's an after scene. Still 2 minutes left. Oh. Okay. $50 left. Okay. So this was the iron-blooded. Next will be hot-blooded. Then will be cold-blooded. Okay. All right. As I said in the intro, I'm gonna take some time to organize thoughts and notes. And I'll just chop that out. Before I do that though, just general impressions, freaking awesome. I can see why it took a while to produce this. I'd say worth. I'd probably disagree with that if I had been waiting for it, but damn. That's some top tier shit in a number of categories, and we'll talk about them. But I want to organize my stuff so that I can make this discussion concise. Not necessarily short, but concise. So I'm not wasting a lot of time like scrolling through for things. Okay? Okay. So I'll see you in a little bit. Okay? Okay. All right. That took a little bit longer than expected. I ended up kind of rewatching the whole thing. Oops. Rewatched most of it at about 2 times speed, stopping to take notes and look at specific things. And I ended up with about 2 full pages of notes. Yikes. Initially, I was planning to try to break this down into like categories or sections. So, focus on talking about story and character and stuff, and then focus on talking about animation and stuff, and then focus on talking about like sound design and stuff, and then talk about like overall flow and pacing and stuff like that. But as I rewatched it, I kind of had a realization, and that is that it's kind of impossible to separate these things because they are pretty intricately woven together. The animation and choices of what kind of animation to use where serve the purposes of the story, and the sound design, while it usually bows to what's going on screen, also is used mostly to serve the purposes of the story. And all of that sort of fits into the flow and pacing because it all sort of mishmashes together. So whoops. I don't know if I can do that and split it up that way. But I think I can give a little bit of lip service to the categorical stuff as we go through what's going on in this I almost called it an episode, in this film. So first thing to notice that I noticed was that the entire thing is letterboxed. And over the course of Bake, we have been conditioned to view letterboxed, so like ultra widescreen, as flashback. So the choice to have the entire thing letterboxed, and I looked this up, and it was displayed in theaters this way. So while the theater screen is large and standard widescreen, there were the black bars top and bottom. So that's the intended viewing form, right? Yeah, that's the intended way to view it, and I think that that's a conscious decision to place all of this, the entire series of Kizu, as flashback, which I think is pretty cool, and it's cool to have that kind of consistency across seasons or sections of a story. I think that's really cool. The second thing that I noticed is that we used French frequently instead of the black frames saying Kuro, or red, or anything like that. They say noir or rouge. Histoire. How do I say that in French anyway?
Historia.
Not Norwegian. French.
History.
History. Okay. And stuff like that. So that was interesting, but it gets more interesting in a little bit, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. And then there's this frame that says monochrome reversal, and it goes from black with white text to white with black text. I don't know what that's about. No idea. But yeah, no idea. And I might it seems like a stretch to say that that's kind of, yeah, it's so much of a stretch I don't even know how to say it. Like, Araragi goes through a pretty significant character shift over the course of this hour, and really becomes the Araragi that we know. But he starts off in a very different place as a person and as a character. So maybe the monochrome reversal is something like that. Then we open up on this absolutely gorgeous CG tree here. So this is freaking beautiful, and this is the first visual scene that isn't just text on title or whatever, and instantly it's interesting. First, because it's an interesting shot, but second, because holy shit, how it's like really, really, really pretty. And that starts us off in media res. So if I had been thinking on my feet, I would have probably realized that was the tree that sprouts up in the middle of the cram school, but I didn't until much later when we were actually informed that it is the cram school. So that's just a goof by me. And our first shot of Araragi's face is absolute horror. Like, absolutely terrified. And if we were wondering, is this pre or post vampire, we have our answer. He's got his fangs. So this is post vampire, and we find out later that it is immediately post vampire. This choice to start us off in the middle of the action with a scene that doesn't have any context, but is hype as fuck and kind of crazy, I think is awesome. It's immediately interesting, immediately intriguing, really cool. So then we go from here to Araragi walking through some CG environments, and they look incredible. And it's not just that the backgrounds and environments look incredible by themselves, It's that it's the way that we move through them and the way that the characters move through them. So this first scene, as he walks by the camera and we sweep around him through this space, is freaking awesome. And like extremely difficult to get this to all match up and feel right. Like, that kind of complicated camera movement around a 2D animated character in a 3D animated space is not what I would think of as easy. And from this point, like, all of the animation that we see is absolutely stunning, but it's ultra fluid. And we'll get a better visual on the fluidity that I'm talking about once Aragi gets to the top of the stairs at the door and is like heaving. And then here we have the first instance of what I think, and I'm not sure about this, but I think that this is a CG model of Araragi back here, just because of the way he moves. Now, I could be wrong, but again, we're keeping with the complicated camera movements in complicated spaces that are kind of incredible. And we have Aragi running, and we don't know whether he's running from or towards something, but the fear that he's expressing indicates from. And then he starts up these stairs, and this is our first instance in the movie of spirals and rotation. And a couple of times rotation is indicated directly and explicitly in cards or like overlays. But this is the first instance of it. We've got these spirals, and then we show it on his eye, and we've got what do you call it? A golden spiral here as the lights pass through. Also, the detail on the iris is just incredible. And then I really like this shot. It's kind of unnerving because everything is moving, but everything is also centered and like held in place by this banister here, which doesn't move as we walk around it. It's almost an optical illusion as we come up until we hit the top. It's freaking awesome. So he's climbing this endless staircase, and it becomes a straight staircase. Up toward light. Up toward light. Get to this crazy contraption of a door. And here he starts to heave as he's just run up these steps. And we get a closer up, amazingly fluid. To the point where it reminds me of the way that those forced 60 FPS anime videos look, except that it's intentional and it's not being computer tweened. It's all legitimately keyframed, as far as I can tell. So we open the door to the outside. Did I miss it? There. Mehr Licht. More light. This immediately caught my attention, and here's why. Remember how I mentioned that all of the frames before this were French? Well, this one's German. Okay, that's different. Why? Well, if you Google the phrase Mehr Licht, what you get is that phrase is traditionally considered maybe not. It's iffy on the history, but it's a reference to I'm gonna say this wrong. Emma, please.
Goethe.
Goethe. Thank you, Emma. Goethe. Yeah, see, I would have said Goethe. 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 These are considered his dying words. More light in his deathbed. And Goethe wrote lots of things. Many, many things. And at the end of his life was focusing a lot on visual stuff, and he wrote something with colors in the title that I don't remember the exact name of. It doesn't really matter. Those are all explanations for why his last words were this, but the choice to use mehr Licht, more light, his dying words, this is a reference to him, and his most famous work is Faust, parts 1 and 2. So, why are we talking about that? Well, if you don't know, Faust is the story of a guy, Faust, who makes a deal with Mephistopheles, the devil. Like, literally Satan. So, deal with the devil is what we're starting with. A bargain, a Faustian bargain. Give up something for something else. Gain power in this life and sacrifice your next, or sacrifice your soul. And I think that fits really well. I think that works and gives us a bit of a context for the bargain that Araragi is going to make in this video. Yeah. There's actually, hold on. Let me make sure that I get this right. Yeah. Yeah, so in Goethe's Faust Part 2, Faust ultimately goes to heaven, and angels arrive and declare at the end, he who strives on and lives to strive can earn redemption still. I think that's important for Araragi as well. This striving and living to strive could be interesting. Okay. So then, we covered this. We walk outside. It's bright. And we as the audience realize, or at least I do, that if Araragi is a vampire, he should not be walking outside in the daytime. It's probably a bad idea. And we have crows all over everything. Almost like leaves on the tree. And then here in these scenes, we get something similar to what we got at the end of Bake, when Hanekawa is on the rooftop, we have like a helicopter noise, and we're viewing as though we're in like a news helicopter, reporting on the situation. And we have a similar situation here, where we've got that helicopter noise. And so we can see from outside of Araragi's perspective, which is cool. So then he glumly walks around. The sun begins to come out. We get some frames of the flag, the rising sun, and shit gets bad. And here we begin one of the most incredible pieces of animation I've seen in a long time. And that is Araragi bursting into flames and everything that follows. Holy shit, this looks good. I mean, incredible. I mean, absolutely stunning. Like, I buy completely that this is a man spontaneously combusting. I mean, look at that. The way it ripples and obscures him. The torment. Like burning from within, from his mouth, from his eyes. Just wreathed in flame. The animation here, it reminds me of some old school stuff, like certain uses of power in Akira and like crazy OVA animation stuff. Like this is awesome. That's what I would call it. And then he falls down to earth. Stunning. Okay. And then we get 2 cards. This one, I can't pronounce French.
Cette histoire de vampire finira mal.
That. Which translates to, this vampire story will end badly, but it doesn't specify for whom. And then the second one, I know that this one translates to "She will end when everyone will be unhappy." That's the literal translation. I'm sure that there's some nuance to it that's missing there. And it's a little bit confusing. So, yeah. I broke down the, like, literal word by word, and I can't get any other meaning out of it. So if you've got a way to translate that makes more sense, that would be cool. I'd love it if you could comment that below. That would be really helpful. Okay. So he falls, just burning, 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 and we'll pick up here later. We go here, more burning, absolutely incredible looking. And then we match cut sun to flag, but it's daytime at another time. And title card. So this is the Iron-Blooded arc. So we had Iron-Blooded, Hot-Blooded, and Cold-Blooded, and so Hot-Blooded will be next, I suppose. What those actually refer to, I do not know. And I do not know the symbolism of these various Buddha statues, or the katana, or any of this. I don't know. If this has specific symbolic meaning, it is lost on me. But then we get some other symbolism. So, cherry blossoms. It's spring. Cherry blossoms are a classic symbol of spring. But what we do is we then reprise the opening of Bake as he walks across here. And then we start to very clearly juxtapose Hanakawa and the cherry blossoms. And in Hanakotoba, the language of flowers, cherry blossoms indicate kindness and gentleness, and also the transience of life. So, like, life is fleeting. Cherry blossoms are only there for a short time before they fall. Not sure about that last one, meaning-wise, for juxtaposing that with Hanakawa. Just not certain. But the kindness and gentleness is pretty clear. Rather straightforward, I think. Okay. There is a slight change to Hanakawa's character design, and that is, she's got a bit more boobage.
Giant anime boobies.
I don't think it's really important, but it's there. And a much more high-intensity panty shot here, for sure. And a fantastic moment. And then the reaction to this is very different. So Araragi is very clearly, well, he saw it. We're in his perspective, right? He saw it. And enjoyed it quite a bit, which we'll see later. But, you know, he's lying. We know he's lying. He knows he's lying. She knows he's lying. And that's pretty obvious. And then this car crashes to sort of accent that. And that'll come back as a little sight gag later. And I think this is fantastic. I think it's great. It's really clever. So the car crashes. And Hanakawa is far more playful. Far more playful in this incarnation than we've seen her before. The way she sort of hops over. And she is very cat-like, frequently. She's very frequently making the cat face, and being kind of cute and goofy. Yeah, cat faces everywhere for Hanakawa. So, if we didn't already know about Black Hanakawa, this would be foreshadowing. She catches up to him, knows his name, and then goes through it. The Ah from possibility, 2 Ras from good kid, and Gi meaning tree with Koyomi from calendar. Not sure if there's deeper meaning here, but possibility, good kid, tree. Okay. Overall, her studies, she has made 1 mistake. I wonder what that mistake was exactly. But that comes a little bit later. And as they're conversing, like, backgrounds disappear, and everything is just light. And then we come back to a more grounded reality with the water, putting us into this place. I think it's fantastic. You always seemed like you were in your own little world. I don't have friends. You're so famous that blah, blah, blah. And then she asks the question, and there's so much emphasis on this, hey, Araragi-kun, that we know that something important is coming. And she asks about belief in vampires, tells him the rumor, and he kind of just shrugs it off. Seems silly. Which makes sense. And then as she's doing this, walking along, superhuman being like a god, and I'm confused by this line. And she says, doesn't have to be a god, otherwise, where's the reward? I have no idea what that means. If you know what that means, I would love it if you would comment below. Because then I can, yeah, that would be nice. And then we get into the real meaty, interesting stuff. And that is Araragi's attitude toward himself, his current status, and his lack of friends. General attitude toward the world. He sees having friends or having relationships as being a weakness, and that friends become your weak points. You have to expend resources in order to help them. This is the polar opposite of the Araragi that we know, and I think talked about this multiple times in the Bake series, and Hanakawa has brought this up multiple times in Bake, that Araragi is too willing to help people, to put himself in danger, or to sacrifice parts of himself in order to help others. But that's not the character that we've met here. So we know who he will be, and he is not that person right now. Also, there's this frame of her with a red umbrella, which, if I'm not mistaken, is related to her Black Hanakawa stuff. I believe we've seen similar frames, but I think they were black and white, but I don't really remember. So I don't know what that otherwise, where's the reward scene line means. I just don't know. You're surprisingly easy to talk to, so why don't you have friends? Why won't you make any? They'd lower my strength as a human. And the way he says this is kind of snarky. And what it makes me think is that this is a set of sort of canned responses for Araragi. A set of prepared or well-used justifications. These are the things that he tells himself in order to not feel bad about being a loner. They'd lower my strength as a human. Sorry, I don't understand. She's genuinely curious here. And then he goes on to say, friends make humans weak. Now, that, as a thesis statement of a character, is the polar opposite of the Araragi that we know. So, this is interesting. We have a character who we know, if we've seen any of the Monogatari series so far, or at least Bake, I don't know if he changes again, that Araragi is going to go through significant change. Because he is not currently the character that we know. Not yet. So, she says that goes both ways. While your friends being down could make you down, and them needing help would mean you expending resources, if they're having fun, then you're having fun. If they're having a good time, you're having a good time. If things go well for them, they go well for you. And this is the opposing thesis. And he dismisses it in what I think is a reasonable way, to say, I'm not good enough for that to work. If they're having fun, I'll be jealous. If they're happy, I'd be envious. And her response is right on the dot. You're so petty, or ningen ga chisai, so small human. You're a small person, Araragi. I think he agrees with that. I think he does, and I think he sees himself that way. This is a character who's down on himself, who doesn't see much of a point in things. And that's, again, a stark difference from the character that we know. What would we do at the library? Why would I study? I'm a lost cause. This all sort of falls into the same way. And then she forces her friendship upon him, which is great. She hops off, and we get one of the... we had some examples of it before, but characters moving through environments in amazing ways while the camera is moving. So the camera's moving, and she's moving, and just like... look at the way the background matches the camera movement. This is actually really technically impressive. You got my number and email now. I'm not sure what the number on this card means. Here. Yeah, no clue. Excuse me, no clue. Okay. So then she walks away, does a cute thing where she keeps turning back. Haha, you just made a friend. And she stops there. Turns back again. And then this Hanakawa theme continues, and Araragi carries it with him. This is interesting. So this kind of groovy, uplifting theme that came into the show with Hanakawa's arrival, Araragi retains it as he walks by, and with a bit of a skip in his step. So despite his protests and his statements of, well, screw friends and all that stuff, he's very pleased that he's made friends, or acquaintances at this point, with Hanakawa. That's pretty cool. So he's got this little skip in his step to the point where he walks by what we could call his mistake or his lie. We could call it whatever we want. Or we could just call it a fun visual gag and a bit of callback humor to the car crash that we heard off screen earlier. Now it's actually there in world, which I think is hilarious. And he's just sort of grinning to himself. He's having himself a great time. So that's pretty cool. And then we've got this rotating bag, which becomes a match cut to the clock, spinning the same direction. And I think this is a cool way to transition between scenes. What happens to the audio? It just fades out, and then we get the ticking. So then we've got Araragi alone in room. And at this point, my jaw kind of hit the floor because look at this freaking space. Look at this. It's so close to hyper real that it's almost unnervingly good looking. And yet Araragi, not hyper real, animated, looks natural here. Really interesting. So the sun sets, and there are a couple of instances of flashes of panty shot. There's the first one. So we're getting into Araragi's headspace. Time ticks away, and this is an adolescent boy who just saw a very attractive girl in her underwear. He has needs. So, yeah, he's mulling that over in his head, and it's fap time. Let's be real. So he hops on out. I love this scene where he puts on his shoe. I don't know why. It's just, it flows so well. Trudge. So then he hops this fence, don't know where, does a flip, don't know why, and he lands in a photograph of a train, and then starts chugging along. And the train builds behind him. One track mind, if you will. And then we get our first instance of hyper sketchy running. So, super emotional state, driven by something. Araragi be running. In this case, it's lust. And this is awesome. For a number of reasons. One of them being like, where did this footage come from? And then they matched the animation to it. and then like other angles, and they match that too, and then from his perspective, and then what? Also, I don't know what this is. What is this? Anybody know what this is? Is this something specific? Is this supposed to have some kind of specific meaning besides oh yeah? I don't know. So anyway, Araragi is on a track. And this is going to become important later for a number of reasons. One being that he's going to meet Heart Under Blade in a subway. The other being there's a through line in the movie of train tracks, crossings, and crossroads. Yeah, so Araragi on his one track busts into this bookstore to the extent that he leaves an outline of himself in the wall, picks up a generic, exciting magazine for adults only, and interesting that we've got the sun over it. Not sure why. And then this is just kind of goofy. He's got what he's come for. He's no longer in a hurry. He can use the door now. I think that's great. Then we go kind of monochrome. And things start to get tense. Silent. And then the lights start to go out. And here we have our Morse code. ... .. SOS. Lights start dropping. And we don't really know how he gets here. But he does. He gets to the subway entrance and he notices a trail of blood. So he follows it. His curiosity is greater than his fear. So he begins to follow the blood. We get some semi-ominous music. And then that builds into a what would you call it? An accelerating theme. The space between these bumps gets much shorter as he gets closer. And there's so much blood, but he doesn't stop. Again, his curiosity is greater than his fear. Here we have another instance of what I'm not sure, but I think that that's a CG Araragi back there, just because of the way that it moves. But again, I'm not sure. The way that the camera is swaying slightly as he does really puts us into his headspace. There's something weird going on. He knows it, but he can't stop. He needs to find the answer now. Here we have another instance of what I think is a CG Araragi. Now, I really don't know what it is about this that screams CG to me, but it does. And that's not a bad thing. It looks really good. But something about the motion makes me think that it's not hand animated. And then this. Look at the reflections on the metal. Look at the crispness of every detail and the way that there are these shadows that run into each other. These sort of cross-shaped shadows as there's light coming from all directions. So they're casting shadows toward us, toward the camera, and then also toward each other because there's light heading that way. This is freaking insane. And the way we perfectly execute the perspective there. Holy shit. Okay, and then we get to this escalator. And this is made to feel like the point at which you can choose to descend into the underworld. That was what I was thinking as soon as we got here. I was like, holy shit, this is a literal descent into the abyss. And then like the hero goes down there and sacrifices something and gains something. Like, oh shit. So this is a turning point, kind of. And he makes the step. Again, I believe that this is a CG Araragi. And once he makes the choice to step onto this dark escalator, the lights come on. Now he can see. Now this is the path. Now it's illuminated. This is where he's going. And he arrives. Skids in. And we see her for the first time. And as we see her, it's like the film reel has run out. And we see this a couple of times later in the movie. But I think this is a really cool way of showing a shock, a moment of loss of comprehension for Araragi. And then we go black. He's heaving, freaking out. And there she is. And she speaks. Oh, wait, there was more before that. Was it before that or after that? Doobie 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 doobie. Ah, okay, it's after that. Cool, we'll get to it. Are you alright? Calling an ambulance. No, don't do that. Just give me some blood. He picks her up. Realizes she doesn't have legs. Freaks out and throws her across the freaking subway. Damn, Araragi. That won't be necessary. And she orders him to offer me thy blood. As she does this, and as it sinks into his mind, we have Hanekawa repeated. And then this scene. Araragi is a train. This is a crossing. A literal crossroads, a point at which you can switch tracks. What do you decide to do? Which way do you decide to go? It's not clear at the crossroads which way each track leads, but you have to choose. Interesting. So she introduces herself. Iron-blooded, hot-blooded, cold-blooded vampire. And she's speaking in definites. I shall, therefore, do this. She explains that she cannot regenerate, and it's gorgeous. And the train is entering the station. Worthless human, 'tis a privilege. I am above you. And he realizes that when she says thine body's worth, she means all of it. And to Araragi, that of course means death. So he then tells himself, it's okay. I can run away. I can escape. But he's in turmoil at this point. Only by doing so can I deny this reality. Interesting. So he begins to flee. And she realizes that this is happening. And the pretense falls away. All of the worthless human, it is such an honor, is gone, and she begs. Will you not help me? No, no. We have a tortured spirit. Help me, please. I beseech thee. And then it goes from that into apologies. And as it does, it changes from her voice to a baby crying. An instinctual thing that humans respond to. So she goes from pretentious to begging to apologizing and helplessly crying like a child, like a baby. And Araragi turns and runs. And not only does he runs. And this is, I think it's the first instance of this. Okay, because there are a couple of instances of this. This is one of those things where I say that the animation serves the characters and serves the story. Araragi doesn't just run away. He runs away in this sketchy, hectic, freaking out sort of way, and the animation mirrors that. The lines are shaky and blurry and sketchy. He's almost inhuman in his action. This is an image of fear and flight from it. And the baby's cries continue. And he keeps running. He's not stopping for anything. Until he does. Until he gets far enough away. I just want to mention that this frame, just in terms of composition, is freaking awesome. Our attention is immediately drawn here. It is directly on a third. And almost on a vertical third. Araragi is the absolute focus, and there are lots of leading lines pointing in toward him. Everything draws your eye toward him. Like, these lines come down toward him. These lines go up toward him. These lines head out toward him. He is the vanishing point of almost everything in the scene. And so our eye is immediately drawn to him. And he's so small, so alone in this space. Fantastic. Love it. And then I would say that the way that the blood trail leads is on the opposing third. So if he's on one split third, then on the other is over here. I think that's really cool. And again, just composition-wise, fantastic. So then he starts to rationalize. If I give her all my blood, I'm gonna die. I don't need to help her, right? Besides, she's a monster. A vampire. I don't need to help her, right? Who's he asking? He's asking his conscience. What does it say? No, you do. He screams out, "Of course I know that," and it echoes back to him. But, despite himself, he goes back. Almost dejected, resigned to it. Weeping. How did it come to this? You made a choice. You were at the crossroads, and you chose a path. I swear I'll be a better person in my next life. He fully believes that he's going to die here, and he's willing to make that sacrifice, despite himself, despite his claims that he is so petty, despite his claims that helping others is a weakness. He still does it. He can't help himself. But this raises a question. What does being a better person mean to Araragi? What does that mean to him? And I think that the next line he says sheds some light on that. I'll be wiser. Okay, but what does that mean? Able to blame my misfortune on others. Now, this is really interesting to me because I don't think of being able to blame other people for my misfortune as being better or wise, exactly. But if we think about it, Araragi has kind of embraced this idea that he's the source of his own misfortune. When he's speaking with Hanakawa and saying, like, yeah, maybe it goes both ways, but I'm not good enough to be the person who enjoys my friend's enjoyment or who has fun when they have fun. I'm petty and envious and jealous. I think that's what he means by blaming his misfortune on himself. And so to be able to blame his misfortune on others would be to be good enough that negative things in his life are external, are from the outside. But it's still a little bit confusing and a little bit weird. But that's okay. So he goes back. I'll be reborn as someone like that. That's why I'll help you. Take my blood, take it all, every last drop, suck me dry. She thanks him, and there's this super romantic track that plays as they fall as one. Like, this is like a moonlight waltz, you know? So there's a bit of an interesting contrast between the music and this scene. And then he awakens. Everything fades out to black. I don't know what this time is. Does anyone know what this is? Thank you. Eyes open. Here we are. And there she is. And at this point, I called her Shinobu, and I don't think that's accurate. Because the Shinobu that we've seen during Bake doesn't act like this character. This character still has her identity as Heart Under Blade. Shinobu that we know does not, as far as we know. So, this is not that character yet. Just her physical form. Something else is going to happen to her that takes something else away from her. I don't know what that will be. So, shock, awe, insane, crazy. Starts trying to wake her up. Hey. You gonna sleep for a few billion years? Please don't. Days have passed in the abandoned cram school. So, here, this is where we join the plot that we've been following with the prologue, or the intro that we started with, where he falls off the roof and burns. Or walks outside and burns. And there's no like, my name is Araragi Koyomi. You're probably wondering how I got into this situation. Well, it all started when I met this girl and saw her panties and then got really horny and decided to go out and buy some fat material. And then once I did, I walked by the subway and saw some blood and then followed it down. There's none of that. There's no word for this. Let's say pretense. It's not the right word, but I think you'll know what I mean. There's no bullshit here. There's no attempt to make this seamless. There's just a trust in the audience that you're waiting to see how did Araragi get to this situation where he's running for his life upstairs and then ends up burning outside? How did he get here? Well, we walk, we go to black, and then we're burning, falling, dying, shit's fucked. Everything's bad. Fool. Sun. She runs. And then here, I think this is pretty cool. So first off, it's pretty cool that this crosses over our line of sight. because it would. And I mean, they could have easily positioned the camera up a little bit, right? And then not had to do this. They still did it. And then she does a perfect high dive tuck. So you can tell that they watched some Olympic high divers to get that, because it is a perfect form high dive tuck, which is kind of awesome. And then she falls to earth like a meteor. It's freaking amazing. Super striking. Shit exploding everywhere. Lots of explosions, and she drags him inside, throws him in, and saves him. And then we get some pretty fun stuff with kind of I would say kind of playing with the idea of like a 500-year-old loli. Like, a 500-year-old loli isn't gonna act like a loli. They're gonna act like themselves, and that's what she does. She's still kind of pretentious and a bit of a know-it-all, and genuinely has lots of experience and knowledge and stuff. Are you her? Yep, I'm her. What was that frame? Okay, it's the name. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, lots of cool stuff here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Which reminds me, I've yet to learn thy name. Again, we have a shock. Doesn't matter. The name you once bore is meaningless hereafter. Araragi has been reborn. He is no longer the character that we knew for the first half of this movie. He's someone else. And indeed, he is much closer to the character that we meet at the beginning of Bake. Interesting. Then from this point, more really attractive backgrounds. Why do you have the body of a child? Why did you choose to make me a vampire? And her explanation is that everyone bitten by a vampire becomes a vampire. Now, this one confuses me a little bit. Just logical consistency here. Vampires need to feed, right? So has she gone 400 years without feeding on a human? Because she said, it's been 400 years since I last made a minion. But then she says, anyone a vampire bites becomes a vampire. So has she not fed on a human for 400 years? Usually in vampire stories, there's a loophole or like a way around this. So, for example, in Anne Rice's interview with the Vampire series, a human drained of, or a creature drained of blood by a vampire just dies. But a creature drained of blood by a vampire who is then offered the vampire's blood in exchange becomes part of the lineage. So the vampire gets to choose, right? To offer the human their own blood. Things like that. So this is a little bit confusing. But it's also interesting for a couple of reasons. One of which is that this means Araragi isn't special. She didn't see something super special in him that made her be like, yes, this will be the best choice for a minion. She just sucked his blood for herself and happened to get a cool minion out of it. That's it. There's nothing that makes it Araragi, you know? There's nothing that makes him worthy or anything like that. He just happened to be there and he happened to choose this track. So that's interesting, I think. And then we have the most wholesomest head pats. Never address me as an equal. And then she says, like, as proof of fealty, Give me wholesome head pats. And he obliges. And it's the cutest thing. And it makes me want one. I want a vampire loli, please. Just one. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The conversation about why did you turn me into a vampire? Notes. My bad. It happens a little bit later. Here is another instance where I believe that these are CG models of the characters. And they look really good. They all look really good. Everything looks really good. Fuck, this show looks really good. Okay, so then we have two scenes occurring at once. One is Araragi going to this other crossroads and the introduction of the vampire slaying specialists. The other is the conversation that they have the night before, as she orders him to go and do this. I must be complete in order to do it. Some goofy stuff. Another crossroads. In fact, a train crossing. And classically, as the train passes by, there's a spooky dude with what appear to be like wooden sword arms. I don't know. They're crazy. They're crazy. He's Hyakimaru. Kind of. Again, just a shout out to the way that background movement, camera movement, and animation are blended. It's freaking cool. Dramaturgy. Episode, I believe. And guillotine cutter. I don't know if those are the original names or they're translated. Actually, you know what? I think that when they say them aloud... No, do they ever say them aloud? I don't think they do. Okay. And then they start to talk. Now, this is real weird. So we have a shot of Oshino to foreshadow his entrance into this fight. And they've garbled the audio. I believe that they've gone and they've reversed the audio, at least. They may have done more than that to make it sound real weird. But the feeling that it gives is as though these characters are speaking in tongues. And I don't know what the in-universe explanation of it is, but in the video, it serves to make them weird and alien and distant, make them the enemy. So that puts us into Araragi's shoes, and even though, classically, the vampire hunter is the good guy and the vampire is the bad guy, we got a bit of a reversal here. The fact that we can't comprehend the others or understand what they're talking about here, like, there's really nothing to go off of to understand what they're saying. They're discussing something amongst themselves, but what and why? And are they speaking a specific language in universe so that vampires and the like can't understand them? I don't know. Sure is interesting, though. So then we've got Oshino, and this is another instance of really sketchy action running stuff. Super sketchy, but he's grinning. He's enjoying himself. He's having a good old time. Araragi just backs up. He tries to scream at them, why can't we just talk this out? And that's just not going to happen. Are you going to murder a human? And then we have this frame, Koyomi Vamp. You're not human, are you? Not to them. This whole time, Oshino is on the way. So they start getting ready to make their attack. He spins his cross around him, and then we have this thing at the top, I think. Oh no, it's a full card that says rotation. Interesting. What is the deal with the importance of rotation? I don't know. Get a big flash of awesome. Oshino stops them as though it's nothing, and then casually is like, you are so ganky. Something good happen? And this is our introduction to Oshino Meme. He never lights his cigarettes. 3 points. Let's go home. Where's home? Cram school. And we meet up. So here, Oshino, like, this discussion is the last scene, pretty much. Last scene of this film. And it's just figuring out the status quo. Oshino will help you. I'll help you plan to split up these 3 vampire hunters and defeat them and do whatever. Bring balance to the world. But it'll cost you. So this is the first deal with Oshino. He's erected a boundary. And then the visual language of this scene is they're together. Oshino is far above them. They're beseeching him for help. Right? Grabs another cigarette. Looks freaking gorgeous all the way. More rotation. Okay. And then once they begin to agree to his terms, Oshino moves. Now we a team. I don't have any money. You gotta do it. And he shoulders the burden. Helping friends is a weakness, right? So why are you doing it, Araragi? Why do it? Oh, another thing is that Oshino always refers to her as Heart Under Blade, which is what she told Araragi to refer to her as, but he refused and continued to call her Kiss Shot. So there's a bit of a respect there, just in the mannerisms and way of speaking from Oshino. He knows of this vampire and respects her. Whereas Araragi, not so much. He just knows this girl who he gave all his blood to, and now he's a vampire, and he's like, what the fuck? Okay. And that covers all of my notes. So, last thing that I want to do, which I didn't do while I was running through stuff, is I want to frame by frame the ending preview. Because why not? Okay, voice only. Eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Iron-blooded, hot-blooded, cold-blooded. And a vampire for a vampire. So, trading as though revenge. Red, unnumbered scene, vampire. A line from dramaturgy. Whoa. That was a lot of text. A Herculean man over 2 meters tall. Large wavy blades that resemble flamberges. Wears a headband. The vampire hunter who took her right arm. It was March 31st, the last day of March. Didn't we start at the 25th? And then now it's the 28th? Okay. Fratricidal vampire. Episode. Evil-eyed man in a white uniform. Giant cross 3 times his size and more than 3 times his weight. A hitman who hunts bounties to hunts vampires to claim their bounties, and that's not all. Okay. Half vampire. Ooh. Is that referring to Araragi or to episode? Guillotine kata. Priestly man with hedgehog-like hair. His slit eyes make a frightening first impression. Did that say human? Human. A human who denies the existence of oddities. A human who erases the existence of oddities. Ooh, that plays into the line that Araragi says, if I run away, I deny this reality. And in doing so, would be erasing that reality. Right? Hito. Circled in red. What else was circled in the previous ones? Vampire, okay. Half vampire. Hanbu, yeah. A human who denies the existence and erases the existence. Very interesting. No translations on this section. Hanakawa. She's a nice girl, but that's not all. She's strong too. Aragi. 5. For me, it was the first time. 4. Felt like I met Hanakawa for real. 3. Without overlooking one another, we met face to face. 2. Preview. 1. Hot-blooded arc. And that's it. Thank you, Edo Monogatari, for your unofficial English subtitles. They were pretty cool. Okay. Well, I think we're coming toward the end of this Bake reaction. And so, let's go back to that original idea of giving at least a little bit of lip service to the overall impressions. Overall, I found Bake itself to be impressively produced. Technically and artistically. There's a lot of care put into it, and a lot of wit and cleverness in it. Not just in the writing, but in the production, the choices of backgrounds, environments, character interactions, everything. Creates a very specific style. This has a little bit of a different style, but everything that's there in Bake is here as well. It's just turned up a few $1 million. Budget is a hell of a drug. It does some crazy things. The backgrounds. Oh my. I think Bake is pretty widely considered kind of famous for its creative backgrounds that accentuate and serve to keep even dialogue-driven scenes, which are the majority, super interesting. Here, that's turned up a few $1 million. Maybe more than a few. The CG work, the digital animation on the backgrounds, the blending and way that the characters move through and are shot in their environments is absolutely stunning. And I can only assume that it's going to get better as they do more of the Kizu movies, as they gain more experience with that kind of work. But already knocking it out of the park. I mean, from frame 1 of seeing the tree with the immense amounts of particle effects over it, with the detail on the bark, you know you're in for something interesting. And then once the elevator doors open and this horrified vampire Araragi steps out with no dialogue for the entirety of the prologue, except for the couple of bits of on-screen text. Amazing. Amazing. The way he moves through that environment as he walks out of the elevator and the camera swings around him to then follow him out and then up the stairs. It's just visually interesting, and it sucks you into this world and into Araragi's perspective. Fantastically. Fantastic. The general composition of each shot is careful. I think that's the best word to use for it. It's careful. It's intentional. It's dripping with authorial intent. And that's cool. That's what I always like to see. It's pretty easy to do shot reverse shot and just line it up with dialogue. It's a lot more difficult to express emotion, not just in the characters, but in the scenes, in the pacing, in the way that one cut flows into another, in the way that the camera moves. The little touches that are throughout that actually end up being rather expensive touches, like the way that the camera sways when Araragi is freaking out a little bit and walking down the hallway and we're following him from behind. The way that it sways with him adds so much to the feeling of being in his perspective, and it adds so much, it makes you almost as disoriented as he is, and that's difficult to do. The times when the key animation becomes sort of blurry and sketchy and haphazard, when emotions are at their climax, when Araragi is fleeing from Hard Under Blade and just absolutely losing it. We see that the animation there serves the purpose of what the character is going through. It expresses that to us visually without having to say it. Same goes for the sound design. The sound design and music was fantastic throughout. Certain things really stand out. Kiss Shot's cries and pleading, like being overlaid with a baby crying, screaming for its mother. And then eventually Kiss Shot's voice fades out of that picture and it's just the baby crying. It gives us this feeling of what Araragi is trying to resist. And he can't. He eventually doesn't. The few instances where I think that we've got these faraway shots and I think that the characters are CG look really good and aren't jarring, in my opinion, at all. Certain portions of the animation, especially Araragi on fire, are absolutely stunning. That prologue sequence where he just turns into a flaming blaze, and then runs around screaming and burning, and then falls off the building, lands, and then just in agony as flames lick up his face, stares up at the sun on his back, is just awesome. Like, it's just awesome. Story and plot and stuff. I would say, for the most part, one could predict a lot of the things that happen in here, but that's not what this is about, I don't think. I don't think that this is the story of Koyomi Araragi becoming a vampire and saving Kiss Shot. I don't think that's quite the story. I think this is the story of Koyomi Araragi becoming the character that we know. The character who is driven to help others, who does it naturally, who puts himself in danger. Because the change that occurs over this episode is characters meet each other, Araragi becomes a vampire, and Araragi makes a choice. And I think that last one is the most important. Because I think everything else stems from that. It's that moment of Crossroads when he runs away from this dying vampire as she screams and pleads at him. And then he stops and goes back, still questioning himself, still like, what the hell am I doing? But that's the moment where the character Araragi that we know was born. And I think that's the purpose of this film. I think that sounded good. Did that sound good? That sounded good. I think that's a good place to end, yeah? Yeah. Alright. So this was cool. Cool stuff. Fun time. Much enjoy. Interesting. I'm excited for the next one. Now, one thing I want to look up before I do close this off is Kizumonogatari 1. And this was aired January 8th, 2016. Number 2. And I'm also going to pull up number 3 and avoid reading anything on the Mal page. Number 2, August 19th, 2016. So 8 months. And then January 6th, 2017. So 5 months. Okay. So I don't know how the actual production lines up, but 8 months after the release of the first film, second film was released, and then 5 months after that, the third film. Okay. Does anybody know if Shaft was working on other portions of the series, like the TV series, during the same time? If so, that's hella impressive. Because that's like not that much time for an animated feature film. But it was in the works for years, right? I don't know. Oh yeah, when did Bake air? That's a good question. That's 2009. Wow. Okay, let me open Nisei, because that's the one after this, I think. That was 2012. Okay. Interesting. So that gives me a bit of a mental timeline. Alright, let me skim through this really quickly. Make sure I haven't missed anything. At least from my notes. I probably missed plenty of stuff in the episode itself, or in the video itself. I keep calling it an episode. Might as well be. Just like a really long episode. Okay, so I mentioned a number of things over the course of this video that if you have information on, I would really love to know about. One being the translation of the second French frame, the one that I was able to translate to "She will end when everyone will be unhappy," which sounds really weird to me. If you know a better translation of that, I would love to read it. Thank you. Second thing, information on the monochrome reversal. Any deeper meaning there that isn't a spoiler? I would like to know about. The naming scheme of Araragi. I know that Nisio Oisin is fond of kanji-specific wordplay. So if there's deeper meaning here in the A from possibility, Raz from good kid, and Gi from tree, let me know. The line "doesn't have to be a god, otherwise where's the reward" confuses me. And so if you've got anything that would clear that up, I would appreciate that. Crossings and crossroads. Tis a privilege. Okay, I can run away. I'll be wiser, able to blame my misfortune on others. Not sure if there's like an accepted, like, different interpretation of that, but I would love to hear your interpretations of this, because it's a line that I think is a little bit ambiguous and confuses me slightly, so maybe you've got your own interpretation of it. I would like to know about that. So those are the specific... Oh, and then the speaking in tongues, unless that's a spoiler, any interpretation you have of the weird way that they talk, the vampire hunter people talk, I would like to read that too. So if you have any info on any of those things, I'd like to know about it. Or anything else, I'd like to know about it. Throw it in the comments. Because this is movie series and kind of a different format a little bit, I might possibly do an actual comment spotlight in the next one. We'll see. But yeah, I might do that. In any case, I think I'm done. We're coming on 4 hours recorded now. Holy shit. Okay. So, time to wrap up. And I already did chill stuff at the beginning, so we won't do that again. But I'll just mention again, if you want the next one a week early, you can go and get that on Patreon. And thank you to my lovely patrons. I love you. You're the bomb. I'm Teeaboo. This has been Kizumonogatari 1. I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Hope you've had fun with the reaction. I certainly enjoyed watching this. Like many of the episodes of Bake, this flew by way faster than the hour and 4-minute runtime. And was a lot of fun. Interesting stuff. And an incredible piece of art, I'd say. Really cool. So, that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope to catch you next week in, what is it? Hot-Blooded? Hot-Blooded Arc. So, we'll be watching the next movie next week. Next Wednesday. Peace.